Hello everyone and welcome to a tag. So this is one that I was tagged in. Actually, all of the co-hosts were tagged in this, the co-hosts for Horror Mayhem, and I am a co-host for Horror Mayhem. So I took a screenshot of all the information, of the questions and everything. So I was tagged, or all of the co-hosts were tagged by MJ in Reading This Life. The title of her video is Haunted Reads Horror BookTube Tag. So let's go ahead and do this. Now this was, I have the screenshot. So again, all the co-hosts for Horror Mayhem were tagged by MJ. And she said that this was created by Alex from the BookTube. And so I did find Alex's channel. I've never heard of this channel, but I like that title, the BookTube, so I'm gonna have to look into that, so that I definitely will. There are 13 prompts for this tag. I have not read these prompts. I'm just gonna wing it, and let's see where my mind goes. So who knows? Number one, how and when did you get into horror? R.L. Stine's Fear Street books. I have said that before. I started reading his Fear Street books when I was in 4th or 5th grade. So whatever age that is, let's see. Average 4th grader age is 10. So 10 or 11 years old. Let's just say 11. Let's just round it up to 11 years old is when I started reading the Fear Street books by R.L. Stine. That's what got me into the horror books. Before then, it was whatever books that my grandma and my mom gave me. There was this thing about this doll named Anne, not Raggedy Ann, but some other, no, not Anne, Violet was the doll's name. There were the Berenstain Bears, although I remember my mom reading to me The Spooky Old Tree by the Berenstain Bears. But it's R.L. Stine's Fear Street books that got me into reading. At that age, I thought, I can't read and enjoy the Goosebumps books because they're meant for boys and those that are younger than me. Although I did read a handful of Goosebumps books, my least favorite of the Goosebumps books were the ones where you choose your own adventure. I like to read cover to cover, but where I have to, where it's like if you go to this, oh, you're dead, and then you have to start over, and then, oh, over here, okay, now go this path. I don't like that in books. I do not like that in books. So I never got into those. But I tried to force myself to because a lot of people were raving about that. But anyway, yeah, no, I just enjoy what you like and read what you like. So you should have no shame in reading what you enjoy. Number two, what was the first horror book you read? So the only one that comes to my mind, again, R.L. Stine, Fear Street, there's a couple. Switched was one. Let me grab, I actually have a couple of Fear Street books on my red shelf. I've been collecting the Fear Street books. There's like 3 that I have left in the Fear Street saga, but they're all over $100. I'm not paying over $100 for an R.L. Stine Fear Street mass market paperback. I'm not doing that. But I have reread a couple of my Fear Street books. So let me grab a few and I'll show you kind of, because I don't know exactly what one. Well, the first horror book would be The Spooky Old Tree by the Berenstain Bears. But for reading on my own, let me grab. Now 2 of these I'm pretty sure I read from before, so I only grabbed 3. So The Wrong Number by R.L. Stine, Halloween Party, and this one I remember rereading several times. This one was my favorite, aside from like the cheerleader books, the whatever they're called. Anyway, Switched by R.L. Stine. This one was my favorite, and I don't know if that was the first one that I read or if it was one of those cheerleaders. There's also one that, it's like the Fear Street Super Chillers, where it takes Secret Admirer or something like that, where it takes place in a mall. Silent Night, I think is what it was called. Anyway, so I don't know which one it was, but I do know it was, I am saying it was a Fear Street book. Number 3, what horror-related goodness can we expect from your channel? I don't know how to answer this. Don't know. I mean, just the TBR, I did a video where I showed you my unread horror books. That's probably about it. So, yeah, I don't know. Oh no, I will say I have a couple of notebooks full of Kindle books that have been free that I've purchased. I've downloaded, they've all been free. And I think I do have some pages that are horror, so you'll see a horror ebook haul. So I love watching book hauls. It's a great way to hear about some new books and new authors. So yeah, that's probably the best part you're going to see about it. Number 4, do you have any favorite themes or subgenre within horror? Paranormal is, I think, my biggest favorite subgenre within horror, even within thriller. I love it when there's paranormal, especially when it's like has themes of the occult and possession, things like that. I generally tend to enjoy it. So I would say, yeah, paranormal is the biggest favorite for me. Number 5, do you have an underrated horror novel or author? I believe so. One comes to my mind instantly. I'm looking on my bookcases where I have read the books. I also tend to really like gothic settings as well, so that's another subgenre. I'm also finding I really like science fiction in the horrors, so like zombies. So like Mira Grant's Newsflesh series I really liked. Now this author I don't hear anyone talking about. I think I heard one person mention this author's name, but it was very brief. Hang on, I gotta get my heating pad back on my lap. And that is Ellen O. So I have 2 books. This is middle grade horror, and this is the Spirit Hunters series. So number 1 is just Spirit Hunters. This ticks the paranormal possession box. Loved it. Book number 2 is The Island of Monsters. I would say this one is for more mature audiences than this first one. They both involve possession, but this one is darker and much creepier and scarier than this first one. So if I would say you have an 8-year-old, for example, reading this one and they get pretty terrified, wait until they're older to read this one. So Spirit Hunters. There is another book that I have yet to read in the Spirit Hunters world, so that's on my unread bookcase. Recommend 3 of your favorite horror novels. Oh, criminy. So these 3 books are the ones that come to my mind. Oh goodness. These 3 books are the ones that come to my mind when people ask for horror recommendations, and that is anything by Dot Hutchison. Specifically, I think this one's more well known, is The Butterfly Garden, which is the, what's the name of the series? I don't know, Butterfly series? Something like that, but this is like a thriller horror or horror thriller. Horror is either the first or the second tag, but I do recommend this if you can stand reading books that deal heavily with crimes against children. So this is a good one. She also has another series where only the first book is out called Deadly Waters, and that was fantastic. Serial killer type thing, unexpected who the serial killer was. So I liked that one too. I've enjoyed everything I've picked up by Dot Hutchison. The other one that comes to my mind is The Death of Jane Lawrence by Caitlin Starling. The reason why this one comes to my mind is this is the first horror book that I have read that actually made me physically gag when reading a scene. And that just tickled me. I had to take a step back and let my body kind of calm down. So it's the first one that actually got that kind of visceral response. So I do recommend this. Just be aware. It's a disgusting scene involving an egg. And that's all I'm going to say. And then the other author that comes to my mind, although some of her books are tagged strictly as thriller, but this one is tagged first as horror. And that's Wendy Webb, and this one is The End of Temperance Dare. This is my first book from this author. Absolutely love this one. This covers these 2 both cover the paranormal, and I love it. As soon as I hear a book that's going to have paranormal, when it's horror thriller, it's like an automatic I'm interested in. If it's paranormal and romance, that's fine, but it's the horror thriller mystery with the paranormal aspect that I like that combination the most, especially the horror paranormal. So End of Temperance Dare, love this one. It's an old tuberculosis asylum that was converted into an artist's getaway retreat, and then there's questions as far as if someone is starting to hallucinate. And I think that's a theme that I like, is this, there's questions that where you question if what you're seeing is, one, paranormal, truly in fact paranormal activity. Two, is someone hallucinating, or is their mind is fracturing or something like that. Or three, is this some elaborate hoax to mess with someone's mind? If it's one of those three and you're kind of questioning which one it is, and this definitely ticked that box for me. It has the possession and things like that. Loved it. Okay, let's see. Number 8. Recommend a book for someone who is new to the horror genre. I will recommend 2 books and an author. Basically 3 authors. Okay. If you want middle grade, if you want to start with middle grade, aside from everything else I've already recommended, Mary Downing Hahn is a good place to start as well. Middle grade horror, gothic, paranormal. This is the first Mary Downing Hahn book that I ever read, and this one is Wait Till Helen Comes, and I do remember this one freaking me out. So now it's just a fun read and a great way to dip your toes into some of the horror stuff with it not being so overly kind of more intense. With it being middle grade, it's going to be more toned down. If you want, and I don't have any of this author's books down here on my red shelves. I mean, I could, but I want to reread them before I come down. If you want young adult horror, I would say by Lois Duncan. My favorite is things like Gallows Hill, The Third Eye, Killing Mr. Griffin. Those are the Daughters of Eve. So any of those books by Lois Duncan would be a great place to start if you want to start with YA. If you don't want to do like R.L. Stein's Fear Street, I would recommend Lois Duncan's books. If you want more adult, but you want maybe horror not to be the main focus, so you want it to be like the subgenre, I would say anything by Mira Grant. So I have the whole Newsflesh trilogy, Newsflesh trilogy, which are zombies, but this one's mermaid. I've heard more people talk about the Newsflesh than I have heard about killer mermaids. So, and for me, I have thalassophobia, so this one was more scary for me than Newsflesh was. So, but Mira Grant would be a good place to start. Mira Grant is the pen name for Shannon McGuire, so if you like her magical realism stuff, you know, or even if you don't, magical realism is generally a hit or miss for me, but I love the sci-fi horror that Mira Grant does, and so I would recommend Mira Grant as a good starting point for adult readers. If you want to start out reading an adult horror, I would do Mira Grant. Number 9, are there any book to film adaptations that you particularly loved or hated? I don't watch movies like I used to. I can recommend a couple of horror movies that I've seen and have loved, but I don't know if they are book to film, except for a couple of them. And the ones that I have read, I have liked the movies better than the books. And maybe it's because I saw the movie first, and so it has a little bit more of a nostalgic feel. But for instance, Coraline by Neil Gaiman, I enjoyed the movie more than the book. Jaws, the movie was better than the book. The Haunting of Hill House, Sleepy Hollow, those are all adaptations where I preferred the movie better than the book. So, and those are the ones that come to my mind. Is there one, and I think the ones where I absolutely love the horror book, I have yet to hear, no, I take that back. The book Carrie, I like the book better than the movie. Okay, so there's one where it's a horror book that I like. So Carrie by Stephen King. And I'm still fairly new to Stephen King, so I tried reading it and DNF'd it. And same thing with Tommy Knockers. I have seen the movies and liked the movies, but I have started to like Stephen King's writing where I didn't before. And so I do want to give those books another try at some point in the future to see if I can get through them and do like the books. So we'll see in the future. But as of right now, Carrie is the only one that comes to my mind where I like the book better than the movie. But I do like the movie on its own. So I think the movie was a pretty good adaptation. You know, and then if I can get to Stephen King's It and Tommyknockers again and actually make it through those books, and when I'm kind of more in the mood for them, then we'll see if that holds true, if I like the book better, or if they're like completely separate. I like them both equally the same. But for the most part, the ones that come to my mind, I enjoyed the movies more. So I don't know. Let's see. Number 10, how do you discover new or new to you horror books? By watching BookTube and looking on Bookstagram. So on Instagram, just at books, I scroll through just kind of, and then if I see a cover that intrigues me, but the biggest way is YouTube and watching people talk about their favorite of all time horror books. I don't want to watch stuff that it's going to spoil anything, so just reading the synopsis is fine for me, or doing a brief spoiler-free summary. But that's generally the way. If they talk about it and I pick out a few keywords that they say when they're giving the synopsis, and same thing with doing like a horror book haul, those are the biggest ways that I find new to me books and horror. That's how I found The Death of Jane Lawrence, and how I found a lot of the the horror books that I have unread that were in my unread book, horror books. So those ones, quite a few of those I found through BookTube, watching people talk about them and just mention them in like really briefly on a reading wrap up or a haul, and hearing about it that way. That's the biggest thing. Sometimes too is when I look at a book on Goodreads, this is another way. It'll say if you like this, you might also like this. And so Goodreads does suggestions too. And so sometimes I'll see a book in the title that I'll like, oh, that sounds pretty interesting. Another way is like for Horror Mayhem, where it's to read specifically horror books, is I've just done Google searches to find, and that's the biggest thing that I did for this month, is I took a prompt from a Horror Mayhem, just did a Google search to find books that fell into that particular prompt category, like sci-fi horror or whatever the case is, and that came up with a plethora of horror authors and books that I've never heard from, one of which was a new favorite, and I look forward to picking up more from that author, which I'll get to in the wrap up for this month. Prompt number 11. What was the last horror book you bought? Man, you're really going to make me think. The last horror book I bought, I got these ones together. I read Declaration of War by Roma Gray, which is part of the Hunted Tribe series. It's book 1. I got book 2, which is Rocket's Red Glare. That's a horror, and I bought the prequel. So I bought the rest of the series. So I've got the prequel and now book number 2. And the prequel is Jurassic Jackaroo, Jasper's Junction. So these are the last horror books that I ordered. Never seen these at Barnes & Noble. I ordered these through Amazon because I've never seen these anywhere else. So, but yeah, these are the last horror books that I bought. 2 more prompts. Number 12, what horror book is the top of your wish list? Oh, you're going to make me look at my wish list. Okay. Okay, here's one. This one's a sci-fi horror, so I am going to count it because horror is the second tag. I have read by ebook, and I would love to get my own physical copy of these, but it's the Southern Reach series by Jeff Vandermeer. It used to be only the trilogy, but he has a 4th book coming out, and you darn well better believe in fact, let me go, and I think it's the ebook is available for pre-order now. So let me see. Yes, I can pre-order it. So I'm going to do that right now because it's the top of my wish list and I want this one. So it's book number 4. It's called Absolution. So I'm going to order this, and then I'm not charged for it until it is released, which it says it will be delivered to my Kindle on October 22nd. So I won't have it until October. But I would say the Southern Reach series by Jeff Vandermeer is the top of my wish list. I just, I love the cover of Absolution, and I want the rest of the series to match that aesthetic. So I'm kind of waiting to see if he's going to do like a cover change, and then maybe I'll buy physical copies of all 4. But that would be the top of my wish list, is that he gets a set out where books 1 through 4, the theme all matches. That would be the top of my wish list for sure, is the Southern Reach books by Jeff Vandermeer. Okay, let's see. That was the last one. The last question, the last question or prompt is, who do you tag? So if you want to do it, consider yourself tagged. You don't have to be a big horror guru. I'm not horror. I'm still, I mean, yeah, there are things that I found that I like in horror and things that I don't like, but I would still consider myself more of a horror, maybe not brand new newbie, but still a fairly new newbie to horror, even though I've been reading Fear Street, but I'm talking like definitely newer to the adult side of the horror genre compared to the young adult and middle grade. So who do I tag? I'm going to go to my subscriptions, and anyone I tag, I will put their channels in the description box. I'll also put all the co-hosts of Horror Mayhem and the host as well. So let me go to my subscriptions and let's see for who I know that likes horror. Let's see, I know she's more into romance right now. Amy Noel Reads. It does say horror lover. I would like to see her responses to this. Of course, there's always a chance she could have already done it. I have seen Beth talk about horror books a bit, and these are like big booktubers. Like Beth is a big booktuber, so I kind of doubt it, but I would like to see her thoughts on this. So Books Nest, I'll still tag her. Same thing, even if I were to tag like Kayla from Books and Lala, I'll still list her channel. She does some good suggestions as well. Again, huge booktuber, puts out a lot of really good content, spends a lot of time editing, it appears to be. So I think this would be another one of like, okay, you've tagged me, but I don't really have time. So let's see, who else? Here's one, Katarina Brown. She does a lot of horror stuff, and she's definitely got horror vibes and aesthetic on her YouTube channel. So, and I'm fairly new to her channel, so I'm still kind of figuring out what she likes and stuff. But she would be a good one. This would be a fun one too, is Zach from Rye Reads. But I think Zach has a lot of stuff going on. If I remember right, is Zach in something in the mental health field, if I remember right? Which that would make me think Zach's very busy. So Zach from Rye Reads, I would love to see. There are a couple of favorite books that I'm trying to do, and I've kind of fallen off with doing some of the book clubs. So, but this year Zach created a book club, and I've read a couple of them and have found some new favorites through Zach's book club. So Zach, I would love to see Zach's response to that as well. Some of these other ones I'm seeing are more into like manga. Oh, this would be a good one. Or science fiction. And I don't ever see them do tags. Okay, I'm going to do 3 more. So this one, another huge YouTuber, but she reads a lot of manga and talks a lot about manga. So I would love to see her do this, but with like a manga twist, because I would love to see more like horror mangas, because I am so new to manga, but I love Junji Ito's work. So I would love to see some recommendations from her that are specifically manga and graphic novel. And that is Bella from Throne of Pages. Again, I'm kind of doubting because of the types of videos and the work that she puts into her videos and the editing and all that, kind of doubting it'll happen. But hey, a girl can wish, right? That some of these booktubers will do it. The other one I would like to see, and again, another bigger booktuber, is Tori from Tori Morrow. Because hers, although it says she loves reading and recommending sci-fi and fantasy, but what I would like to know is if there's any sci-fi horror that she loves or fantasy horror that she loves. So kind of like their twist on it, to make it to where it suits their tastes, you know? So, because I know, again, it's like Mira Grant. Love Mira books underneath the pen name Mira Grant. Sci-fi horror. So I'd like to know if Tori Morrow has any sci-fi horrors that she would love to recommend to people, rather than just straight up sci-fi and fantasy. So that's my inquiry there. The other one I would love to see do this is Kimberly from Whimsical Narratives. She's done some really cool videos and cool recommendations and stuff, and has a fun TBR game, and I think she'd be kind of fun to watch to do that as well. So those are the ones that, just from doing a quick scroll from who I've subscribed to, that come to my mind. But if you're watching this, and I'm sure I've missed some people, but consider yourself tagged. If you're wishing that you would have been tagged in this, consider yourself tagged, and do it, because I think this would be fun to watch more people do. So yeah, let me know your thoughts. If you only want to answer one of these questions, let me know your answer in the description box. Talk to me in the comment section below. I said give me your answer in the description box. You don't have access to that, just in the comment section. So let me know your thoughts. Talk to me in the comment section below. And until next time, stay true to yourself and enjoy a good book, and I will talk to you later.